straight up ahead, this extremely large, hairy, 7 to 8 foot being just standing on the verge of the road. His eyes were glowing a bright orange in the headlights. Hello and welcome back to Talk About Strange. Thank you for joining me here today. I just got done sharing a story from Brian about the one-eyed Bigfoot, the killer Bigfoot. It was a follow-up story, so I hope you guys caught that. If you didn't, you're going to want to. Great stuff, really cool. And I was talking about this past week, we had a lot of great stuff happening, really interesting conversations. And I shared a Bigfoot in the UK. Really cool stuff. Got some great feedback on that. And some people were commenting that actually even put a couple of small stories in that. But right after that, I got a story, Bigfoot in Australia. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to share a story about Bigfoot in Australia. And I'm adding some of those comments in there because this is a short story. So I think it'll be really cool and fun to add some of the comments that we got from our subscribers and viewers and that are from over that big pond as well. And really neat stuff. Anyway, so stick around. You're going to enjoy it. And if it's cold where you're at, 'cause it got cold here. I mean, we got spoiled by this warm weather. I mean, I loved it. I felt good. Then it turned cold again. But listen, if you're too cold, go to the Talk About Strange store. Pick yourself up one of those Talk About Strange blankets, those comforters. You can kick back and relax and stay nice and toasty warm. We got a lot of really cool stuff there. If you haven't been there, check it out. And we really appreciate it. And I'm going to get started on the story right now. All right. So this is Bigfoot I'm sorry. Let me take that back. This is Yowie in Australia. Australian Yowie. All right. Let's get started. Hello, my name is Linda. About 8 years ago, my daughters arranged a Christmas dinner with friends at a rural diner owned and ran by a family member's friend. It was out in a very rural, remote seaside village. We were, oh boy, that sounds beautiful already. We were having a wonderful time eating outside under candlelight with a wonderful conversation and a lot of laughs. This is my personal experience, Steve. All right, awesome. It was close to midnight and we were leaving the diner. We wished everyone a Merry Christmas. We got into the SUV. My younger daughter, was driving. I sat beside her and my older daughter sat in the back seat. We took a side road that went through miles of sugarcane fields, where at the end of the county road, it would bring us back out into the suburb area. As we came around, we had to slow right down to navigate this corner safely when all of a sudden, in our headlights on the left side of the road, the side we were driving on, stood something that looked like a bear standing firmly upright. I live in Australia and we don't have bears. As we all focused on this being, my daughter slowed the vehicle right down, saying, "What is that?" Unfortunately for her, her sister and I opposed the action, and we told her by screaming out, "Don't slow down. Get us the bleep out of here right now." I don't blame you. Okay, Steve, this is what we saw. As the headlights hit the corner, and then we saw this straight up ahead, this extremely large, hairy, 7 to 8 foot being just standing on the verge of the road. His eyes were glowing a bright orange in the headlights. This creature looked stunned as he stood straight with his arms at his side and didn't move an ounce. The most disturbing observation that I remember is that this creature's arms dangled beside its body, but its hands were well below its knees. Wow. This creature had no defined neck. The head just sort of sat on a huge wide shoulders, a very dark hairy being with glowing eyes and hands that hung past its knees. As soon as I saw this, my whole body went into a cold and terror. My daughter sped up the vehicle and we passed this being and left it standing on the verge of the road with the mature cane fields behind him. A few years later, I explained my experience to a gathering I was at, and someone said, "Linda, you saw a Yowie." I had never heard of what that was, and now I know what the name is for a Sasquatch in Australia. I was also told that the cane plantation, when mature and in that season, have had sightings of Yowie for many years. They come down from the mountains around the low-lying flat grounds for a taste of the sugar cane. Wow. I am so glad I could share. One can never forget strange experiences like that. They remain forever in your psyche. Take care. Love your approach to these subjects, Steve. So thank you, Linda. I'm not going to give your last name, but that's up to you. Anyway, yes, thank you, Linda. We appreciate you sharing that with us. That's really neat. Sugar cane, huh? Sure, why not? Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so from there, we're going to get on to some of the comments that came in on that previous story, and I'm sure that some are going to come in on that one as well. So this came in from Goody Mac. All right, I too live in northeast of England, not that far from we're on that word again, Northumberland. About 5 years ago, myself and friends were in the wooded semi-rural area watching a meteor shower. I happened to look towards the woods, which were about 2 bus lengths away from us, when I saw 2 bright red eyes a short distance into the woods. I watched for a while and couldn't figure out what they were. There was no traffic near, so couldn't be bright lights. There was no ambient light source, so it couldn't be reflections. I quietly summoned my friends and asked them what they thought if they could see, and their response was exactly what I was witnessing. The eyes seemed to sway from side to side as to try and figure out what we were doing. Okay. Knowing the topography of the land locally, I could estimate how high up the eyes were. Far too high to be a deer and too far apart to be an owl. We were perplexed and couldn't think of an explanation. Some days later, we returned in daylight and examined the area and worked out where those eyes were, approximately 30 foot from us, and were approximately 7 foot high. After some months, we were still intrigued by this event and searched out and brought us up to the conclusion it was a Bigfoot. I tell everyone who will listen, and I don't care about their response, as one day it will all come to the light, and they will have no choice but to accept the fact that they do exist. Very cool. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that comment. Great comment and nice little story. I appreciate that. That's why I wanted to share these. I mean, why not? A lot of you aren't hearing this. Here's another one. It comes in from Franklin Coolport 27. Hey, Steve. Greetings from, Inverness in the Highlands of Scotland. Nice. Highlands of Scotland. Boy, it's always been a dream to see that. I'd love to go see that. So beautiful. When I think about it, I think about those sheer cliffs and the castles and all that. Man, amazing. I live close to Loch Ness, and I walk the woods and countryside daily. I can tell you that the Highlands of Scotland have vast areas of wilderness where you can walk for miles without seeing another human. I witnessed with my own eyes a large bipedal creature on 2 legs walking along a ridge line at the top of the woods I was walking through. My observation had led me to believe that so-called wood knockers are actually vocalizations. Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting. I kind of wish that story went on a little bit further. Love to hear more. If you have more, send that in. Send something to us and send some pictures. All right, this next comment comes from Bridge Over Troubled Waters, 6716. Nice. All right. I live in the south of England, and I have had a similar experience too, actually. And even though I have seen it with my own eyes, I wonder what on earth it was that I saw. We don't get big animals here, but on a small plot of land in picturesque Sussex, I have encountered a very large black hairy bear gorilla type entity that crushed about in a small woodland, running away from me when I apparently disturbed it whilst gathering firewood, then totally disappeared without trace. I am 60 years old, sane woman. I am a 60-year-old sane woman, and I know what I saw. I can only think it is what you call a Bigfoot, as description seems to fit. Nice. Very nice. Thank you for that. Another great comment. All right. This comes in from Susan, 7855. Loved the UK story. Here in Sweden, the Sami culture has a name for Bigfoot. Stello. Never heard a story about them, though. The country of Sweden, Lapland, even has a flag with a wild man with a wooden bat on it. In the 1600s, he was black or dark brown, naked, nobody knows or have ever heard the story about a wild man in the mountains. And nobody knows or has ever heard a story about the wild. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. This next one comes in from Jenny Helfers, 1895. Hello there. Okay. You've given me Swedish words or something here, so I'm going to try to muddle through them. Let me see. Jagar Akasa Fran. Sporg? I'm terrible at English. How am I going to do that? Interesting to hear about the Sami from the Klansmen. Okay. I have heard on other channels of sightings in eastern and northern Norway and also in Finland. I think they occasionally can visit Sweden too. Here's some more words for me. And Heyadaland and in Jämtland, I have heard the Sweden is mostly Dogman territory. There's also the Sami woman called Storstina, meaning Big Stina, who lived in the 1800s. I read about her and the strange fainting in the woods. Let me see. I read about her and the strange fainting in the woods and dreams that were said to happen to her mother at the time of Stina's supposed conception. Okay, this sounds familiar. I think Big Stina was a hybrid. That's why it sounds familiar. Very tall with a lot of thick hair, at least on her head. She actually made some money for herself and her parents on showing herself on markets and circuses. Very interesting. I love stuff from history as well. All right, this one also comes in from Jenny Holfers, 1895, to Susanna, 7855. Exactly, a little scary to find them too close, I guess. There was a Swedish guy who wrote in to one of the other channels, either Cryptid Canada or Buckeye Bigfoot. I don't remember, but he had contacted an alpha male leader of wolfmen in Sweden. The European wolfmen are not as aggressive as the ones you hear about here in the Americas. Well, that's because everything's so expensive here. They're pissed off. I joke. Anyway, probably not as messed with genetically by the military, I guess. He said that the killings of sheep, when there are multiple ones found dead and not eaten, we hear about in papers, that's not a normal wolf attack, but most likely a young, frustrated male dog man that was recently kicked out of his pack and expect to start his own pack. Frustrated, sad, angry, they sometimes do this erratic deeds, which are supposedly seen as a very bad behavior amongst their own species. But teenage boys in all species can be quite unruly. Yeah, you can say that again. They also say that Bigfoot normally doesn't come into their territory. They are on good terms, but keep a respectful distance. Very interesting. That's neat. Okay, this next one comes in from Noel Saza. Let's go with that. To Fly Brune. I believe it. We have them in Australia. Two types. Actually, the smaller type we call Gingeri or Junjudi, different to Yowies. They are very small, similar to humans, with long arms and hair all over, but like a very hairy person, a little bit like Teen Wolf, Michael J. Fox. Okay. Movie and Neanderthal man that we didn't have in Australia. But anyway, we have these unexplained creatures up north. I have seen them on more than one occasion and was very lucky as a boy. I wasn't snatched by one. Oh, yeah. When at a swimming hole with my mates, they were full-blooded Aboriginals. They knew what was happening and stopped me from getting close to the one that we saw and know a couple of have killed. Let me see. I know a couple that have been killed or found dead by the roadside. One shot, hectic creature. Let me see. One shot, hectic creature you never want to see when we're lacking punctuations here. So I apologize. Trying to punctuate it as I read it. You never want to see one. We even have a full no-go zone that is a island just off the coast. They are on rangers and scientists live on one side of the island. You're definitely not alone on there, and they have some kind of security guard that will get you before you step foot on this place, Hinchinbrook Island, just in front of Cardwell for a real mate. Oh, for real, mate. Okay. Yeah. Hey, thank you for sending it in. And trust me, I'm not picking on you with the punctuation. You know, I just had to get through it there, but I want you to continue commenting. Don't worry about that. I appreciate it. Okay, I think this is a continuation. I don't know if they are the same as in Australia, but I would believe extremely cautious. You can put food there for them, but don't push your luck. They will turn on you one day, especially if they're in a family group, or one may just get jealous of another being fascinated with you, and next thing you know, you're being eaten. Oh, that's not good. I know you're curious of them. Go to the fruit and vegetable guy, get some old stock and start dumping it near the location you had your sighting. It can be it can be like you are making a peace offering for trespassing. Remember, they are basically a wild animal like a bear, tiger, kangaroo, regardless that they have human features and can even mimic us. Yeah, that's probably very sound advice. They are a wild creature. I mean, so yeah, you definitely want to be careful. All right, this next one comes in from Tina Elizabeth. Hello, Steve. Thank you so much for sharing this brave man's encounter. I live in North Essex, UK. We have many ancient woodlands around here, and I often see unusual wood tree structures similar to those I've seen on channels similar to yours. I live near a creek and woods, and I really believe they are here. I've seen similar structures too in Scotland and South Ireland. Country Cavan. There's something too about the A road in the UK. I sometimes spot the wood structures whilst driving. I guess these are quite secluded as the woods run beside the roads with no footpaths, public access or such. Thank you so very much for sharing all of this. These beings, I feel, are so much more than what's on the surface. Absolutely. Okay, well, let me see. We got another one here. Nolzaza. I hope I'm saying that right. Nolzaza. All right. I am from Australia. I have had a few experiences with them. We have two types here, Yowies and Jinjari. They're the small type that look very human looking, with long arms, hairy looking, similar to a Neanderthal man. Very dangerous creatures. The Aboriginals from the south had enough with the Jinjari and drove them all north back in the day. So only a few of the north live in the north of Tweed River. My mate's mother recently photographed one in her backyard in a rural area. They don't live in that house anymore. The most full-on case in recent times was a farm up north. They shot one, and the den that I had personally saw was dug up with an excavator on the farm. I did see the den. It freaked me out big time, mate. I was raised in the bush. The den was probably 500 meters from the stables and had been there for who knows how long. Strategically, it was the perfect observation point to watch the people. The one that was shot was juvenile and appeared to be a young male. It was roughly the size of a grown man, 80 kilograms. A lot of people know about this. The police were actually watching the place for 2 years for some other reason. I was asked by a detective what they are. He and I had seen them. I know the family that owned the place since I was a boy. So did the cop. Okay, and he continues. I can tell you about exactly what happened, but not here. You would have to edit out details about the people in it and exact locations for reasons. I will tell you that makes sense. When you know it's very terrifying, everything about it. I know I can't go anywhere near the place. I live over 1,000 kilometers away from the place and will never go near it. My mates and I often talk about it. My mother would read us guys that grew up around the place the book Stig of the Dump. We believe that the adults knew about the creatures back then. They were very scared of the place in the bush and scared of the dark. Everyone kept large dogs nearby their house, I believe, for that same reason. Very interesting. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. So that's it. That was the kind of the bigger stories that were in. There's a lot of comments in there, but this kind of was some of the stories that came from over that way that were put into the comments. I thought I'd love to share with you guys, and I figured you guys enjoy hearing them. That's it for now, though. Thanks again for joining me. Look forward to some more stuff coming up here soon. I got a lot of other stuff to share as soon as I get time, but I did want to get these out for you. Other than that, that's it for now. I will see you again really soon.